If you look at my background, my journey started with business process management, business process reengineering, then went into software implementation, large scale ERP systems that we implemented all across the US. I then went into managing operations and sales for a technology support operations company. So it was a combination of operations, support, software, and business process management. So when I was looking at starting something in that space, the whole focus was how can I use that experience and that background and launch something that is not people dependent, right? I wanted to do something which is software defined, because that's what the trend was. It was the software defined enterprises. So with that kind of a background, I looked at the market. When we surveyed the market, there were few technologies that bubbled up. One was RPA, which was creating waves in the market, and the other one was business process management. So those were the two technologies that we thought, okay, let's start with those two technologies. And as we went into those two technologies, we realized that all the information that they need it in digital format. So we said, okay, let's look at OCR, let's look at data extraction, of how we can extract the data, give it to a BPM system or give it to a robot so that it can be taken forward. So when we are looking at this space and when we are working with our customers, our vision is to increase organization intelligence, and we can increase that only by being more agnostic, right? So our idea is look at this space and look at what works best. And technology could be any of the leading technologies out there. We have partnered with a few, but it could be any of the leading technologies. So when I want a customer to look at us, they should be looking at, okay, can Lateetud come and guide us through this journey? And that journey includes taking a process from level 1 to level 3. And the way we define level 1, level 2, level 3 is structured to unstructured to machine learning and artificial intelligence. That's a little bit of background about how we got started and where Lateetud is and where we will go from here on.
Both of us looked at the market and looked at what is really happening to the enterprise. So two things that stood out. One was most organizations were trying to become more cost-effective, agile, and then of course under the general umbrella of digital transformation, things were happening. And then we looked at what are the components of digital transformation, and definitely process automation stood out. And that's when we looked at what are the trends in the market. And we quickly realized that this is not a passing phase, it's not a fad, this is going to stay for some time. And this is a wave that we can ride and give back benefits to the organization and all that. So that's how we kind of zeroed in on process automation and RPA engine specifically.
One primary reason why people are looking at RPA is because they're able to do something which they were not able to do earlier. For instance, we are taking this technology to the operations executives. Now, operations executives have a couple of choices, right? The first choice is that they can go to IT and request the value add that they're expecting, or request IT to solve their problem. But then they again become part of the portfolio management, where IT is already busy. They already have so many projects and they're not able to focus on these projects. Now, the second option is look at a tool like RPA, which the operations themselves can own, so they don't have to depend on IT. And then their fate is in their own hands. So they are solving their own problems. And the technology lends itself to accomplishing that, because you don't have to know coding. It's an object-oriented graphical user interface which helps you. It's a drag and drop technology which helps executives to achieve that. So I think that's the primary reason why it's working so well in the market. Is operations executives are finding it just right, where they can own it. They are the citizen developers, and they can move forward with it.
One, because we are focused on process automation and we live and breathe that. That definitely is a specialization, particularly given that this is the new kid in the block. The second part of it is that we are small and agile, and both of us have tons of experience in working closely with customers and understanding what really is the cultural fit that a customer is looking for, particularly when they are embarking on something new. That's what we strive to give. So I think that's what differentiates us.
That's what our focus is as well, is when we are working with our customers, it should not be transactional, right? We want to have a long-term relationship, and that will happen only if we can add value and they can see that there is a value in this relationship.
So RPA as a hot trend is only 2 years old, and we have had at least about 5 large implementations. So that gives us that real on-the-ground experience in implementing this. And then we've worked with small, large organizations and everything in the middle. So we understand how the size of the organization, the culture of the organization affects how you set up an COE.
I think RPA is here to stay. When we look at what customers have been able to do with this particular technology is amazing, right? Both from the perspective of the impact that it has made on the digital transformation, but also from the perspective that it is an enterprise class technology. It is stable, it can handle much more, it can scale with the requirements, and this is that also defines the longevity of any technology for that matter. The second is something that we believe in and something that we are seeing in the market is you look at a process from a class A, class B, class C, or a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 perspective. So you start with something that is structured, rules-based, straightforward, high volume processes for automation. And that's where robotic process automation comes in. Now, what we are seeing in the market, and that's what we are hoping RPA will move towards, is that RPA will help companies to move to tier 2 and tier 3, not by providing the direct value add, but by connecting to technologies that can provide the tier 2 and tier 3. And tier 2 could be understanding of unstructured processes, and tier 3 is moving into artificial intelligence and machine learning. And that pretty much defines how it is going to evolve in the next 3 to 5 years.
So when you look at any process to automate, there are 2 challenges. It could come from the data side, or it could come from the process side. So on the data side, if the data is all digital, well structured, then it's a ready candidate for automation. But the process itself could pose a challenge then. And it may be because it's not well documented, it's too complex. That's where process mining comes into the picture. If it's not rules-based process, and if it's not well understood, you have to use a process mining tool before you embark on an RPA journey. But on the data side, if this data is not structured and you have to make sense of it, that's where, because it's not digital or whatever is the reason, that's where OCR and ICR and text mining, text analytics come into the picture. So, and then there might be multiple human touch points within the process. So that's where BPM or IBPMs comes in. So it all fits together when you consider all sorts of use cases. It could be that you have to first use AI, ML, text analytics, text mining to get data to the shape which RPA can take. And then on the process side, if it's not structured, you have to use process mining tools upfront to get better rules or better workflows, I should say. So it all fits together. So that's why we are focusing on the associated technologies, so that end to end there is a greater throughput for automation than just by using RPA. Some of these tools and platforms are going to converge. I see probably RPA vendors introducing workflow components where there are human touch points, or BPM engines allowing automation within it. So maybe one of the tools will provide a bot which you can drag and drop and click and associate with tasks. So some kind of integration is going to happen, and it could be triggered by some mergers and acquisitions. It could come together because ultimately they're all automation in some sense.
It is able to understand the context. It is also able to understand what you are asking, and combining the context and the ask, it's able to take action. We could actually, in the next 5 to 10 years, we could actually achieve end-to-end automation without a single disruption. So you order something, it is delivered without a human being interacting in that process.
He's got a bunch. You see that? He's like, which one do I say? I'll say mine. He's really laid back. Nothing seems to stress him out. Is that the same with you?
No, he does get stressed out, and I know what they are, so that helps. But I think Sometimes I felt he takes technology for granted. I'll be open about that. In a sense, it's true, because technology is becoming easier. Technology is easy. You don't have to get into coding to get something done. So that's the point from where he's coming. And I understand it. But coming from a development background, I see technology being looked down sometimes. So, yeah.
There's no probability of that happening in near future. He's still going to sleep with a robot. He's going to wake up with a robot. That's what I see happening.